I said, gosh, look at my graphics, Kelly. Did you see that?
You can.
Wow. Yowza. Yowza. Okay. All right. Are we live? Molly, we're live. Okay. I apologize. I didn't know we were live. Thanks, Malls. Usually she gives me a heads up. Wow. I'm sorry. Okay, Kelly Kuntz, I'm so glad to have you back on my show. For those of you that are listening, streaming in, Kelly and I did a podcast the other day. It was great. We were able to turn our transcript into a little ebook that we can make available to you here, or you can go on my podcast and check that out. I love this topic because this is one of those things about owning multifamily that everybody talks about, but they talk about it at the 30,000 foot view level, and they don't talk about, well, how do you actually do it? And like, what do I need to do to make the transition? So let's kind of lay down the groundwork here a little bit, Kelly, just so people know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at a property, there are two types of property to look at. There are those that are all bills paid and those that are tenant paid. And, I guess the best way to describe it is, the all bills paid properties were very prevalent before a certain historical period. And I'm going to ask Kelly what exactly was that historical period in just a moment. But what happened was when they built the apartment buildings, they would put in heating and water systems such they all ran through one big, chiller boiler system typically. Mm-hmm. And every single unit was heated and cooled all through that one session. So you didn't really even need to bill the tenants or have the tenants be responsible for the cost of the heat and hot water.
You're right on, Charles. The buildings that say are older than the 80s or 90s even, they didn't really worry about that incidental cost, especially for water and sewer.
Yeah.
They made the plumbing systems in the most efficient manner with back-to-back kitchens and bathrooms that shared the plumbing, and the building owner simply understood that he was going to cover those costs as part of his monthly rent.
And then tragedy struck. And do you know what that tragedy was, Kelly?
Well, we certainly know that all of our utilities and water has turned into a precious commodity.
Right.
Costs have driven up.
But when did that first happen? When was that that killer moment when people like multifamily owner operators said, no mas?
Right.
No way, we can't do this anymore.
I'll let you zero in on what you're thinking about.
And you're too young, Kelly. You're too young.
Must be
you don't
too
remember.
Young.
It was the energy crisis during Jimmy Carter's
1973.
Yeah. Oh no, 80s.
In the 80s. Okay.
He came in 76, so 76 to 80. Because my father-in-law owned an apartment building in Michigan, and he had to give it back to the bank because the utilities were killing him. Because it was, you just didn't make a dime on it. And so what happened was new operators, new construction for multifamily figured out the solution. And the solution was to put individual furnaces, individual hot water heaters in the closets of these places and let the tenants be responsible for the cost of doing those things.
Exactly right.
Yeah. And so now when you look at a property that's an all bills paid, it's a solid C-class property because that thing was built before 1980. Mm-hmm. And so, what do you do? So that gives all of you the basis for the technology that we're talking about here. Mm-hmm. Kelly's about to get into some real cool technology in a moment. But then the other problem happened, Kelly, and this is where it really gets kind of tough, is that those C-class residents don't like to pay their own utilities.
No.
A lot of them have bad credit. They can't get them turned on in their name. And so in that case, you got to, you gotta do something about it. You gotta, figure out, it's a catch-22. I need that tenant, but I don't want to pay those utility costs for that tenant. And this is kind of where Kelly comes in with the solution. So Kelly, tell me about your company, submetersolutions.com, right?
Yeah, Submeter Solutions. We are headquartered out of the Seattle area, but we do business all over North America, even into Canada. And simply put, Charles, we are able to offer our solution to exactly that issue and that problem that we're talking about right now, both on the hardware side. Let's get you set up with ideally a metering system that's going to that's not going to break an arm and a leg to install it in your property. And then once that's in place, we can then provide the ongoing monthly utility billing directly to the residents, so they get billed for actually their usage, and that money gets transferred to the property owner, who can pay that utility bill. It's not coming out of the property owner's pocket anymore. Yeah. So that's our basic business model. We will do properties 200 unit large apartments or more, and we will do these for duplexes and triplexes, which is a little unique in our industry because a lot of folks don't like those small properties. We think that submetering can come to those as well. Yeah,
why not? Absolutely. I mean, okay, so let's talk about the terms we always hear: RUBS, ratio utility billing system.
Correct.
I mean, are they a competitor of yours? Are they just a name for what you do, or how does RUBS? I mean, that's what we all learn.
Yeah, and what we like to think of as basically 3 levels of dealing with these utility costs. And as you said, we used to think of them as incidental, but they're no longer incidental. They're one of the largest line items on any building owner's P&L every year. Maybe rivaling taxes, but other than that, it's utilities. And so you can choose to deal with that in 3 ways. Number 1, hope that you can capture that in your monthly rents. Create a fee, fix it, and hope to heck that that's going to cover leaks or rising prices or whatever. The next best strategy is RUBS, and that ratio utility billing system actually does take the actual bill from the utility, the real life costs, and then it uses some calculated methodology to allocate that to all of the individual residents. So that could be done equally. A 20-unit building could be divided 1/20th. It could be done based on occupancy. Maybe the 2-bedroom apartments pay more than the 1-bedroom apartments. So there are many different ways that that's applied. It's better than that first option, but it is still not really changing behaviors. The residents really it doesn't really matter how much utility they use, whether it's water or gas or electricity. Their bill's pretty much going to still be the same month over month, and you're not changing behavior. So it's that third option, which we are calling submetering, which we believe is really the most powerful one. So in addition now to being able to recover those costs by charging every resident exactly what they use, you're now also allowing that resident to influence how much that is on a monthly basis. If they don't like how high their bill is, they can reduce their usage. And that's then the power that will lead ultimately to the overall utility bill dropping 20 to 30% after a metering system's put in place.
Okay, but before we get to that, let's jump back to RUBS for a second. So basically all you're saying is that RUBS is really just an accounting process.
That's correct.
And the thing about that is, and I know this is going to tie into a little bit what you were just talking about, is how much can you charge? I know that this is the
answer.
It's so important that we get into this discussion because, if somebody asks a question, well, how do I know if it's an all bills paid or a tenant paid property? Let me tell you, the easiest way is when you look at the trailing 12, you're going to look at the income. And if there's a category under income that says utility income, and then there's a corresponding expense down there for utility expense, it's usually a tenant paid property because you're collecting that money. Now, here's what I want you to explain about RUBS and also the accounting for RUBS. How much can you charge? And how do you collect the money on RUBS? Yeah.
Right. So the short, quick answer on how much you can charge, which is a very basic tenet in our business, is that you can only recover the actual costs that the utilities are charging the property. And that is non-negotiable. This is not an opportunity to make this a profit center and mark that cost up to make any money. You are able to recover it. And you may, depending on where you live, be able to add a very nominal monthly service fee for the administration of it. But that's it. You're able to only recover those costs only. Yeah. So our goal is to recover up to 100% of those. Over 100%, you got a problem. Under 100%, you got a problem. You're not collecting everything. So you want somebody who's doing this, whether it's RUBS or submetering, who's got a good system to get you right there at the costs.
And something that you said on the podcast that really made me think twice is the reason why you can't do that and make a profit is because you can't become a utility.
Exactly.
And that's really what you're doing when you're making money on that utility. You're a utility company.
Right. None of us want to be regulated like a utility company.
Yeah. So, like I said, you can't compete against the government because they don't like criminals. They don't like competition. So, same thing with the utilities. Okay. Now, let's get into the mechanisms for how your process works. So when you deal with RUBS, from an infrastructure standpoint, you don't do anything differently to the property. It just you just get a bill and you send the bill out to this company, and they break it up, and then they bill the tenants, and the tenants pay them, and then they pay you, or how does that all work from a RUBS standpoint? We haven't got to your solution yet.
I understand. Stick with RUBS. And many property owners decide that they're going to do this in-house, or they would get a third-party billing company to do this process for them. But the process is simply to take that bill, to run it through whatever allocation methodology they're going to use, calculate those bills, probably send a bill to the resident. And then if it is a third-party billing company that's doing this, the property can make a decision to have that company simply send the bill, but on the bill it says remit your payment to, and it goes to the property manager. So they collect it at the same time that they're collecting rent. So they're getting the money in. They still write their check to their payment to the utility, but now they've received the money from the residents to do so. So so the other option that third-party billing companies can offer is that they will actually collect the money themselves, and then once a month they will remit what they've received from the residents back to the property.
Okay, and here's the $1 million question. What does the landlord do if the guy doesn't pay the bill?
Great
question. See, because we're dealing with the old-fashioned structure, you can't shut down the chiller boiler on one unit. Right. So how do you solve that problem?
Well, there are a lot of really effective options to do that. A lot of it begins with your lease. I may have shared with you on our podcast before, Charles, that we see really smart.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Kelly, I listen to you. I already know the answers to these questions because I listen to you, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So if you're on top of it, you can get with your attorney. We're not offering legal advice, but we've definitely seen that you can actually put in your lease that any monies received from a tenant can first be applied to any outstanding utility balance. and then apply to the rent. So
Right.
if that's the case and you've got a resident that's only paid their rent but not their utility, you now have all of those tools available to you to go get that money, including eviction if needed.
I had a tenant that was a Section 8 tenant, and they refused to pay the pet fee. A Section 8 tenant, they refused to pay the pet fee. So it was like they paid $10 for Section 8. They had to pay $20 for the pet, and they refused to pay it, and they got evicted. I evicted them, and then I had to notify Section 8. This guy loses his voucher because he breached the contract. And like, how stupid can you be? How stupid? Only Section 8 on that one property I ever had, and the guy, I had to evict the bum. So that was cat. You know what? But Kelly, you know what it was? The guy was a cat lover.
He was a cat guy. Of course it was. We knew that.
We don't understand those people. But anyway, no, I'm not. I'm having a little fun here. You cat lovers, I get it. I like dogs. But
But your question is one that we get all the time, Charles. People that may have had a bad experience in the past, or they're just worried that they're not going to get the money. And I am here to tell you, with 14 years of experience doing thousands and tens of thousands of units, that really is not an issue. Maybe there's that resident. Everybody's got that resident, right? That doesn't like having to start paying for their water and sewer. But within a month or two, that just turns into the routine. People understand it's one of their mini bills that we all have.
Okay, let me give you another example. This is kind of a restaurant that I'm the number one patron there. Great spot. They give out these bowls of bread, warm bread. And they had a big Facebook post the other day that they're going to start charging $3 for the bread. Okay. Of course, you get those guys who chime in with like, whoa, what are you going to do? Charge for water next? And then, you know what happened? I talked to the owner. You know what happened? Usage went down. Nobody, if they had to pay for it, the usage, I still get it. Great bread. It kills me. I'm not supposed to eat bread, but it's good stuff. But man, that's what happens. And that's what happens when people call you. And this is true. This is very interesting. So let's now, I call you up and I want to know, how do I make this thing work on my 4 unit and on my 40 unit? Okay. Dig in.
So let's start with that 4 unit owner, and we're going to ask a few very general questions about the building itself. Is there? Tell us. Let's use water sewer now. Of course, a lot of these same principles apply to electric and gas, but for water and sewer, let's ask some questions. Can you turn the water off in every single unit at a shutoff valve or not? Maybe the answer is yes. Great. We can put a meter right after that shutoff valve. And now we know we're measuring 100% of the water going into every unit. So that building would require 4 meters.
How does it know? Just tell me the technology. How does a little meter know how much water is going through that pipe and then shooting it back to you somewhere?
Right. Yeah. Great question. So the meter itself is very much like the same utility. It is a utility grade meter, but it's very similar to the meter that the utility company is putting out in a meter pit box in front of your house. It's using those same principles of water running through a turbine and very, very accurately at many different flows, keeping track of what the usage is there. And then in addition to looking at that odometer counter on the face of the meter, there's a wire that comes out of that meter as well, which can allows us to put some technology then to that meter. So we can attach to that wire a transceiver that's battery powered, lasts 10 years on the battery before it needs to be replaced. And now every couple hours, that transceiver is sending that data up through a gateway up to a cloud-based server. So we now can get reads on that meter on multiple times a day. And by accessing that data, we can then calculate the usage on a monthly basis or even a daily basis.
Okay, so do we need an internet connection in the property?
You either need an internet connection via Ethernet or Wi-Fi, or we'll sell you equipment that's cellular based. So that may have an additional $35 fee a month.
Yeah.
But there's we're living in the 2020s now, and getting data with smart equipment up to the internet is really not hard, and it isn't expensive. So that's how that works. The challenge is, what if that building, they say, no, if we get a problem in the plumbing, we have to turn the water out at the street. They're not individually separated. And usually our second question then is, well, does each unit have its own hot water heater? And generally the answer is yes. In most of the country, sometimes it's no if they have a central heating system. But if they've got a hot water heater, then at least we know that the hot water is separated uniquely in each unit. And we can put that same meter on the supply line going into the hot water tank. And now we're measuring all the hot water that's used by each resident. And with that, we can use what we call a hot water allocation based metering methodology. It's a little bit of a combination of RUBS and metering, where we're going to recover all the costs for water and sewer, but we're going to do it based on every resident's individual usage of their hot water. Believe it or not, a family or a couple of 2 or 3, about half of the water in your residence is going to be hot water. So it isn't it's a very, very representative amount of water used. It still creates that opportunity for them to adjust their bill based on their usage and their habits. And so that's a super effective way to actually submeter, even on a very old building that may not have the water lines split out.
Okay. Just because I'm always looking for ways to screw the system.
Sure.
All right. In that particular case, if you just have it on the hot water, how would it work if I fired up the furnace as high as it would go? And that way I don't need as much hot water coming out of my faucet. And so I use more cold water, and I don't have, but it kills my gas bill. And I'm not paying my gas bill. I'm just paying my hot water bill. And I just use a little bit of hot water coming out.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to have a tremendous influence, but it probably is going to have a little influence. So smart guys like you might see a couple bucks less on your water.
Hey, Molly, cut that part. Would you please cut that part?
Cut that.
Forget this live thing. Okay, so you can do it on the water. You can do it on the hot water.
Correct.
We also have gas.
Correct.
Gas is also, because if you have one of those master boilers, it's that's going to be a big system with using the gas. How do you work it that way?
Well, we have traditional gas meters. Some of them are even compact size, so we can just monitor the total gas used right on that incoming supply line of gas. We also have some really creative devices. Say you have an apartment where the only gas appliance is a gas fireplace, and they all have an on-off switch, fire it on and off. We have a relatively inexpensive and easy to install a device called a runtime module, which keeps track of how many minutes in the month you've had the switch on. And then we can use that data to allocate the entire gas bill to every resident based on their usage that way. It's a great alternative. If you've got a situation like that, give us a call, because we can walk you through that and give you a price for that type of a solution as well.
Okay. Now, where does the data go?
Great question. So the data is the raw data, just with whatever that meter is, recording, it's constantly counting up, is going up to a cloud server that's usually overseen by the equipment manufacturer or by us, or a combination of that. We then will download that data into our utility billing software that we use to prepare those bills each month. And so it's all very secure. Both our company and our industry has gone out of their way to make sure that that's not something that others can get a handle on. And then we use that usage data to prepare the bills and apply the actual rates that the utility is charging the building. And we run summary reports for the management. We can even have those uploaded into your property management software if that's an advantage for you. So all of those steps can be taken by a third-party billing company, including Submeter Solutions, to really make this process user-friendly for the owner and the managers.
But can we do it in such a way that the tenant creates the account on your system, and we set up a credit card or their ACH or something, and you collect the money automatically from the tenant, and then you just transfer the money to us?
Close. We would work with the property owner to install this system property wide, whether it's that fourplex or that 40 unit property. But then if they chose to have us do the collections, yes, every resident gets an individual account. They get a bill either mailed or emailed from us to them, and then they can choose to set up an ACH or a credit card payment or send a check into us. We'll take care of all of that accounting, all of that banking, and once a month we'll send that money over to the property.
Okay, very cool. All right, final question, and obviously this is my favorite one. That pesky little 3-letter word, as Joe Biden would say, that pesky little 3-letter word, laws. LAWS, laws, that pesky little 3-letter word. We have to, before you can come in there and work your magic, we've got to make sure that the city, state laws allow for this type of thing. I mean, you probably know off the top of your head who's got what around the country, but kind of give us an idea of what we need to understand regarding the laws.
It's a really great question. And Charles, I would start by saying that in brief, throughout the United States, this process of recapturing those costs from residents is in general not just allowed, but encouraged. And more states and communities are looking for ways to promote submetering because they know that it's green, it's good for our environment, it does reduce the overall usage. So in general, this is going to be accepted and legal. There may be some specific requirements in specific jurisdictions. So the way those play out is maybe there is some criteria on making notices to residents when you're switching from covering those costs within the monthly rent to now billing them outside of that. So they're going to want to see, for instance, 90-day notice. There are other restrictions in certain jurisdictions about what that service fee can be. No, we're not marking up the cost of the utilities, but maybe we're charging a $3 or $4 a month fee to prepare the bill, send it, collect the money, do that processing. And there are some places in the country that have put a cap on that. Many more places of the country that don't. So what we can do if you're unsure about that is tell us where you are. Our industry has a very comprehensive database, which we constantly update to keep track of what the specific laws are. Maybe it's different with gas than it is with water. Maybe electricity requires a different kind of meter, but we're on top of that, so we can help anybody with those questions.
Interesting. Okay, I have one more question. Actually, I have two, but I'm going to pull a. Okay, here goes. How much?
How much?
How much? What does it cost to have you do this? And are you going to come out to my place, my duplex in Somerville?
Yeah, well, I would love to come visit. If tell me,
Not
let's go to that
Somerville.
restaurant of yours, and we'll
Not Somerville, would you, Kelly? Come on, man.
It's a great question, and I don't want to be squishy with my answer, but in general, let's talk about that fourplex. That fourplex that we can get everything up and running with 4 meters, the transceivers, and the wireless remote system. That really is going to have out of pocket, all in hardware costs with a plumber who's going to install it is going to be $4,000 to $5,000 tops, maybe less. If it's at hot water allocation, that's very simple installation, and you may get that for as low as $2,000 for something like that. Right. So it's not a lot of money. We generally see that if you're going from trying to capture this in your monthly rent, and you now start billing it out, and you don't change your rents, you're going to have a return on investment always in less than 12 months. And the billing is essentially, it depends on the size of the property and if we run into some monthly minimums. But if you've got a 20-unit property, we're going to put, say, that $4 a month utility fee on our bill. The resident pays it. The billing services, in fact, then are free for the property owner. They're going to get all those services of the billing, the collections, the remitting of the money, and the residents are paying us to do that.
See, I think you're wrong, Kelly. I think you're wrong. And let me tell you why. When you are saying that you can recapture this within a year, all you're doing in your calculation is trying to figure out, okay, it costs $1,000. And does my revenue go up by at least $1,000 because we've shifted the utilities?
True that.
That's not how we value a multifamily property. We value a multifamily property on the net operating income. If you drop the NOI by $1,000, you now have to capitalize that by taking that $1,000, dividing it by, let's say it's a 5 cap, okay? And this is just one property. You just increased the value of that property by $20,000.
There you go.
Yeah. So you don't sell yourself short here. All we care about is the NOI. And when we can shift that, I mean, the whole time, whenever we are buying a property and we see that we're paying the utilities, we will always think, oh, if we could just shift this over to the tenants, get it off of our income and expense statement, our NOI will go up and our valuation will skyrocket. So that's really what we're talking about here with Kelly's services, is you can really skyrocket the value of your property because of these little tools that he has. And you said about $1,000 or $2,000 for a duplex, and that includes you're adding in there the plumber cost if you need one, and then you also the actual cost of that particular machine that you have, the little meter, it's not that much, right?
Yeah, no. For meter transceiver, $120 per unit. Yeah. There's a gateway that's going to maybe be $800 to $1,000, and you're done spending money on hardware.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. You've got to talk to Kelly, folks. Submetersolutions.com, right?
Right, submetersolutions.com, and if you go to submetersolutions.com/Charles. Our website is set up for your listeners, and they will land on our page that will allow them to get a free assessment. We'll call you right back. We'll take good care of you with your specifics.
I think they're calling in now, Kelly.
Yeah, they are.
They're calling in now. Let's see. 3 ring. It's such a huge office. It takes her forever to find the phone. And all right, there she. Jeez. Sheila, see, I can't tell you. This is live TV, folks. Live TV. So, hold on a second. Hold on. Let me just. Hold on, let me just mute here. Okay. Technical difficulties. Love live TV. All right, yeah. So there's there it is, and also, folks, you can go. I think we're going to take the ebook that we put together from our podcast. That's also on my channels as well. You can sign up and we'll let you download that. That was a nice little thing. But folks, if you own property that your tenants are not paying for the utilities, you gotta give Kelly a call, because it just makes a huge difference in the valuation of your property. It's just it's brilliant. There it is right there. That's the Molly, is that right? info.multifamilyos.com, or is it just www.multifamilyos.com? I don't even know these things. I'm so huge in the industry right now. It's all over. Yep, that's the new one. Oh wow, gosh, how about that? Unbelievable. Kelly, thank you so much for being on my live broadcast, my live YouTube live. Just to let everybody know, this is Christmas week, or Christmas month. We're coming up on it. We're obviously. If you're one of my students, we're going to miss the next couple of Monday nights, obviously, because of holidays and what have you. I'm still going to be doing the H2A, the hotel to apartment, live. As a matter of fact, Kelly, I think I got the first property for you.
We're ready to get you a proposal for that, Charles.
Holy cow, that's we just went back under contract with that property, and I got another one right behind it, and. That's we're doing great stuff with the hotels to apartments, and this is right up your alley, especially in the water. That's so cool. Awesome. Can't wait. All right, folks, thanks for coming in. Kelly, it's always good to see you. I really appreciate you wearing a shirt this time. That was a very uncomfortable podcast for one of us. So thank you very much, Kelly. And we will
very welcome. Happy holidays to you and Molly.
You too. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
See you, buddy.